Welcome. In front of me I have the brand new Xiaomi Poco F6 Pro, and today I'll go over unboxing along with a quick look at the device itself. Now let me quickly find my, there we go, cutting tool, or just a knife basically. Forgive the sound that is outside. Anyway, just pop this open, and here we get a nice gray case, matte finish, doesn't attract fingerprints, so pretty nice. Some paperwork and some eject tool. Setting that to the side, we have our phone. So there we go. It looks pretty nice. Nice finish, I really like it. And then let's turn it on. There we go. And while it's putting up, let's see what else we got in here. We get a whopping 120 watt charger, so that is fantastic. Samsung, iPhones, Apple, take note, this is how you're supposed to package your devices, with a charger in the box, as a phone without a charger is not really going to be usable if you don't have a charger already. And paying over $1,000 for a phone that doesn't come with a charger is just BS excuse to basically make more profit. You're not saving the planet, you're saving your profits. So yeah, now the charger right here is a type A to type C as a phone. So if you have already cable and stuff like that, you can obviously utilize this with this. So if the cable breaks after some time, you can just slap in another one. The newer chargers nowadays come with a type C, which makes it a little bit more annoying, but in terms of charging it with the charger that comes, if you have one that might be better. Obviously it's designed for profits, because if you have an old charger type A, the cable, for instance, for Samsung's, they have like some garbage cable, which makes it not charge as quick as it could. But anyway, enough of that. Let's now talk about the display right here. So this is a 6.67 inch display. It is AMOLED with 68 billion colors, 120 Hz refresh rate, Dolby Vision, HDR10 Plus certification, and a peak brightness of whopping 4000 nits. My goodness. Now, this is like the peak, as much as it can ever produce. The typical brightness is about 700 nits, and it goes up to like 1200 when it needs to, but peak is at a staggering 4000. Now, additionally, we have 89% screen to body ratio, so fairly minimal bezels all around, looks pretty modern and nice. Additionally, pixel density right here is 526 pixels per inch, with the resolution being 1440 by 3200. So this is a 1440p display right here, pretty sharp. Additionally, the glass right here covering this display is a Corner Gorilla Glass 5. And that's basically all the important info about the display itself. The display right here is just top notch, one of the better ones that you can get on the device. Now if we flip it over to the back, we can take a look at our camera setup, and it looks like Xiaomi, by the looks of it, decided to again ditch the useless cameras like 2 megapixel depth or macros. So props to them for doing so. I absolutely hate seeing useless cameras on the phone, just to fill out the empty space. And I do want to point out, the non-pro version of this device did the same thing. It only has 2 cameras. They for some reason take a lot of space right here when they don't need to, considering it's probably using the same 50 megapixel sensor. So this one right here in the very corner, and as you can see, the size of it is much bigger for no reason. But they didn't include useless cameras. Thank you. That's how you're supposed to do it. Now, the main sensor, like I mentioned, 50 megapixel f1.6 wide with PDAF and optical image stabilization. Then we have an 8 megapixel f2.2 ultra wide. I take it back. 2 megapixel macro. Are you fucking kidding me? Piss off with this dog shit. You're just not supposed to include this. It's useless. Now the reason I'm crapping on this and being kind of agitated by this is because if you decide to capture photos on a macro scale, you have a dedicated lens. But believe me when I tell you, this lens is useless, as it's going to be outperformed by the 50 megapixel wide sensor. And just to kind of, put that to test, just for people that might be doubting it, I'm going to go to the setup and show that off. And while I'm just going to the setup, I'm going to come back to this in a moment. But let's also talk about the selfie camera right here, which will be a 16 megapixel wide sensor. Now with back cameras, you can record video at 8K 24 frames, 4K at up to 60 frames, and 1080p also up to 60 with slow motion of 120, 240, and 960. So camera wise right here and recording specifically in slow motion, basically pretty amazing. Now the selfie camera right here can record videos at 1080p up to 60 frames. Now hopefully in a second it's gonna finish up. Come on. Just want to capture the photos. Let's go. You had time to prepare the system when I was talking for 20 minutes. There we go. Okay, so let's open up the camera just so I can kind of showcase this. So we're gonna start off with just a normal wide sensor. I am gonna do 2x zoom just because it's gonna give me a better result right here. So I'm gonna do 2x zoom and let's see, I'm gonna maybe capture this. Okay, so this is as close as I can get. So that would be the 50 megapixel wide sensor with 2x zoom. Let's go into more and see the where do they hide the macro? Oh, there we go. There's the macro. I am gonna need to add a little bit light in here. Trying to see how close I can get. Okay, so it looks like this is as close as I can get. Okay. Now let's take a look at the photos. This is the macro, and all in all, it's actually surprisingly good considering it's only 2 megapixels. Let's look at the 50 megapixel. Honestly, what was that? Let's take a look. I'm gonna try that again. I'm gonna just try to see. Hello, can I oh, there we go, back out. So this will be not macro again. There we go. Okay, yeah, so I think I got a little bit too close and it became a bit more blurry. But here you can basically see the ink right now. The spaces in between, along with the grain of the paper on the paper. You just get rid of the camera or the light, so it's a little bit less blown out. Now, let's see if I can get this to be brighter, just so it looks better. Because it's not sure if you can kind of see it right here. Sorry for the kind of quality right here. It is getting a bit blown out to the point that the camera isn't picking up the fine detail. Obviously, macro is designed to show you fine detail. And here, it's a bit darker, so it's a bit easier for the camera to see. But the quality right here, when you zoom in, you can see it starts to get blurry. So as an example, China, let's see that. You can see it's doing some kind of upscaling to make it look better, but because of that, it does look a bit soft. It's kind of like clayish looking. If you compare that to the main sensor right here, you can see this looks a bit sharper. There's less kind of upscaling done to this to make it look like it's better. So this is more realistic look to the actual image quality. And when it comes onto like the edges right here, you can see it's much more defined compared to, for instance, this, which is a very grainy and just lacks detail. It preserves the shape but lacks the detail. So this is what you basically end up with when you have a 2 megapixel macro. There is not enough data in this photo to give you the good image. I will admit the upscaling done here is pretty good, as the 2 megapixel macro is doing a decent job, but when you zoom in and look closer, you can see that it is being upscaled. So if the same kind of logic would be applied to upscaling this photo at 2x zoom, this would blow the macro out of the water again. So right now these two cameras are working on two different kind of like footing. So macro is getting a bit of a handicap treatment, while the 50 megapixel isn't. So this is what you get with the actual 50 megapixel camera, and the other one would be significantly worse without that upscaling. So yeah, I did want to point that out because it's useless. And the thing that bothers me right here is that this is on a Pro version of this device, so it costs more, and basically what it does is include a dogshit camera. I'm a bit salty about that one. Anyway, let's just disregard that and move on. So now we're going to move on to the internals, as these are pretty good. So the device comes with a whopping 5000 mAh battery and 120 watt charging. So you're gonna top it up really quickly, and luckily the charger comes provided with the device. Would you look at that, you can actually do that. So props to Xiaomi for doing that, it's really good. Now their advertising charging speed right here are basically 100% in 19 minutes. Insane. Now, moving on with the internals, we have at the base entry 256 gigs of storage and 12 gigs of RAM. Now you can get it to 512, 12 gigs, and 1 terabyte will now come with 16 gigs of RAM. These are absolute overkills. So if you need more than 256 gigs of storage, you can just go for the middle option, the 512 with 12 gigs of RAM. In terms of RAM, I would argue that 12 gigs will be sufficient enough for basically anything that you want to do on the device. Let's be honest, 12 gigs is already more than MacBooks come with. You don't need 16, to be honest. This device won't be doing enough multitasking to justify this amount of RAM. So just save yourself some money, as you won't really need that much. And all the options of storage here come with UFS 4.0 storage type, meaning that the read-write speed on it will be really good. Okay, now additionally, the device is being powered by a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, which seems to be kind of odd considering the non-Pro comes with 8S Gen 3, if everything is correct. I'm gonna quickly check that if I am actually correct about all of this, at least the processor right here. So checking this out, Xiaomi website. I was getting the data, the info about the device from the GSM Arena website. And in terms of the processor, on the Xiaomi official site, it does state that it's Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Now I do want to see the F6 only, not the Pro. And well, yep, that was also correct. So it comes with Snapdragon 8S Gen 3. So I assume, which I haven't really seen anything with Snapdragon 8S Gen 3, I assume that the 8S is just like a lower clocked version of it for some reason, which just kind of makes no sense with the naming scheme in generations, but whatever. So, now with that being said, this basically would conclude the most of the specs about the device right here. The only thing that I didn't mention is a couple additional things, which I'm gonna just run through really quickly. So number one, we have Android 14 on here with a skin on it, which is Hyper OS. So because this device was released in 2024 May, It's most likely going to get several more Android updates to like Android 16 presumably, so you should be good to go with that. We have under display fingerprint sensor, we have an aluminum build right here, and a what looks to be plastic back, glass front, and oh, no, it's actually glass. So this is also glass with this nice finish. And yeah, that's about everything else that I wanted to mention. Last thing, I'm going to slap the case on here just so you can see how that looks like. Come on, get on there. There we go. So you can see it protects the device pretty well. Like I mentioned, it's matte gray finish, so it won't get into this kind of like nasty yellow color like the clear silicone ones do. So really good design there, or choice. And yeah, that's about it. Now, last thing that I'm gonna say is the price of this device, which it comes at about 560 US dollars. So this is a very affordable device. It's basically priced in the mid-range while giving you flagship processor. Now, it appears to be the last generation flagship processor, but that is still no processor to scoff at. It's still a fantastic, stupidly powerful processor, which will get through everything that you throw at it. So you shouldn't have any kind of performance problems with this device. And the fact that it costs half of what most flagships nowadays cost, it's a massive win, I would say, and a device that is well worth the money. So anyway, with that being said, hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you did, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.